So I did my book report on the I did my book report on the autobiography of Malcolm X as told to Alex Haley. So in Malcolm's early years, he was already exposed to a life of segregation and racism. He and his family would receive threats to leave town from the Black Legion, and they were basically a bodyguard to the KKK, except they wore black robes instead of white. As Malcolm got older, he became a conk, and that's when a black man dyes his hair to look like a white man's, and so it became this bright red, and because of that he became known as the Detroit Red. He also became super invested in drugs and drinking and gambling, and then he eventually got blacklisted in gambling because he pulled a gun out, and so that ruined his reputation, and he wasn't able to make any other money, so he resorted to robbery. Eventually he was convicted of robbery and sentenced to 10 years in jail, and in those 10 years was his turning point in life and in history. There he had experienced his intellectual growth, and he had become so immersed in the prison library, and he had started studying more about math and history, English, all that stuff he probably should have been paying attention in school. In prison he had also met Elijah Muhammad, who was the reason he became so invested in the Nation of Islam, and when they had gotten out of jail, Muhammad actually assigned him as the minister of the Detroit Temple. Their goal was to develop techniques for drawing blacks from black nationalist rallies and churches and advocate return to Africa. Malcolm did become a traveling man. He did travel to Mecca, and there he actually found people with white skin that hadn't been, as the book said, intoxicated by racism. Now, Malcolm was a pretty level-headed guy. He did realize that the black community should unite before they decided to band together and fight the white people about racism. Nonetheless, his ways were totally different than MLK's. He did believe in violence, but only if they gave you reason to be violent. You don't just go hitting people because you think they think differently. Alright, so I'm totally gonna go over my time frame, but I just had to mention I forgot that I was reading an autobiography, and I was like, he didn't mention his death, and then I realized he couldn't because it's an autobiography. So I read the epilogue. Thousands of blacks, whites, Muslims, non-Muslims, they showed up to his funeral. That just shows the impact he made on people and in history and just in life. I mean, he was amazing. I chose this book because I believe that Malcolm X is a very underrated man of a black movement. Thanks for watching. Sorry for going over time. Bye. Malcolm did become... Probably shouldn't use props.